Hey guys, Steven here with STS Pickleball, and today we're talking about the new J2NF paddle, the J2FC Plus, and we're also going to jump into actually the J2NFK, which is the Kevlar version of these paddles. So without further ado, let's dig straight into it. So as far as discounts go and saving you money, which I'm always trying to do for you, the J2NF and the J2FC Plus are going to be under my STS10 discount code. And that's going to give you 10% off and save you about $20 on these paddles. My STS10 discount code works on every paddle on Honolulu's website outside of their Kevlar variants. So you'll find with the J2NFK and all of their Kevlar variants like the J2K and the J2K Plus will be under my discount code STS Pickleball, which will just save you a flat $20 off any of those Kevlar paddles specifically. All right, so you don't need the whole backstory on all of this, but to be quite honest, these paddles are extremely good. Okay. We're talking about like contender for the #1 paddle of 2025. I think that if I could go back and actually redo my list, I would probably put this at the top or at least tied with the J2K Plus. I would say, if you did pull the trigger on any of those paddles in my top 5 video of 2025, specifically speaking of, the J2TI Plus or the J2K Plus, I don't want you to have FOMO or fear of missing out on any of these new paddles. They do play fairly similarly. The only real difference between the J2NF, it will be without the L in the production line, but he did assure me that the paddles that I did receive will be exactly the same, grit-wise, spin-wise, construction-wise as the production model. But these are going to be very similar to the J2K Plus in overall metrics, okay? The feel is a little bit different off the face, but the metrics are fairly similar. So if you already pulled the trigger on one of those, you will not be missing out. So the main difference here is that the NF model is going to have notched foam. So it has like kind of a puzzle piece of foam around the perimeter with a solid piece of foam in the center. And I'll throw up a picture on the screen right now so you can see that. But the difference between the NF and the FC Plus is the FC Plus has essentially kind of like Gen 3 construction hybridized or combined with full foam core. So basically you get 2 bands of foam around the perimeter the same way Gen 3 paddles are constructed, but instead of a polypropylene core, you get a full foam core. So one thing that I did notice is that full foam doesn't seem to respond the same way polypropylene does in a Gen 3 construction. So when you do add those 2 layers of foam around the perimeter, the solid center piece of foam doesn't seem to kind of create an amplification of rebound effect the same way polypropylene does when it's surrounded by 2 sort of thicker layers of foam around the perimeter. So the difference between the NF and the FC Plus might surprise you when we get into the metrics and the overall feel of these paddles. And then the Kevlar version is going to be essentially the NF version with just a little bit more pop and a little bit less control just because of the general rigidity that we find with Kevlar being the surface material. Well, let's go ahead and throw up some metrics on the screen of these paddles. So we'll start with the J2NF. So the J2NF comes in with a swing weight of 112.14, a twist weight of 6.89, and mine measured at a clean 8.1 ounces of stock weight. The J2FC Plus comes in at 110.94 for swing weight, 6.72 for twist weight, and 8.1 flat for stock weight. And then we have the J2NFK, which is going to be the Kevlar variant of the notched foam paddles, with a swing weight of 112.34, a twist weight of 6.84, and a stock weight of 8.1 flat. And these metrics, metrics like these are going to be the reason why we keep seeing Honolulu rise to the surface. I see a lot of, not a lot, I see a little bit of skepticism in the comments and in some of the Discord channels that I'm in about, certain brands and why certain brands get more attention than other brands. It really just comes down to objective feedback. Some of it is a little subjective, but most of it is objective. I mean, you cannot argue with swing weight and twist weight results like this, right? The swing weight on all of these is very low for a really solid hybrid paddle that has this much stock power, right? And then you also have a very high twist weight across the board, and they're all very consistent. They're all within a very small margin of difference, which is really nice to see. They all come in at a flat, exact 8.1 ounce of stock weight too. So the consistency between all three of these, even though they all have, differences in construction, is really cool to see. And it's details like this that really show that, the owner of Honolulu is really trying to, make sure that every detail that goes into these paddles is very consistent and very dialed, right? We've seen like with the Carbon TruFoam Genesis series, right? The Genesis 2 had a solid swing weight, but the Genesis 1 and the Genesis 3 were quite high on the swing weight scale, which is going to be an issue for a lot of people that don't want a heavier paddle, right? You would always rather have a lighter stock paddle and be able to add weight after. Whereas if you have a heavier paddle to begin with, there's not a whole lot you can do. And so when you have a paddle like this that's utilizing new core characteristics like full foam or notched foam, or you have a paddle like the FC Plus that not only has full foam in the core, but Gen 3 aspects about the construction, and you still have them all coming in at 8.1 exactly stock weight, and then the swing weight and twist weights are highly optimized. These are just green flags all around. And the reason why you go to smaller boutique companies like this that are creating artisan products, right? And there's pros and cons to all that. We can get into all that, but real quick, I'm just going to talk about this real quick, but larger manufacturers are amazing at building pickleball as a whole, right? But small boutique companies like these are really what are driving forward smaller, more detailed aspects of innovation within the space, right? So we have Honolulu, right? That has pumped out very quickly a full foam paddle, multiple full foam variants with different constructions and different core types and different perimeter types. But also they have optimized the swing weight, twist weight, and stock weight of all of these paddles. And it's really cool to see that from a smaller company, right? And so that you're getting high quality paddles, you're getting high quality construction, you're getting consistency in the general variables and the makeup of these paddles that, us as reviewers have found to be very optimized numbers. And that's really cool to see. And so before we jump into the spin rates on these paddles, I want to just say, consider subscribing. It really does help my channel. It's a free way to say thank you, for putting all this time and effort into these reviews. And I just want to say I appreciate every single one of you. So let's get back into it. So let's go and jump into all the rest of the metrics real quick, and then we'll kind of do a little synopsis at the end. So the J2NF comes in at a power rating of 9.4, a pop rating of 8.9, a sweet spot rating of 9.5, and a control rating of 9.1. The J2FC Plus comes in at a spin rating of 2335 RPM, a power rating of 9.2, a pop rating of 9, a sweet spot rating of 9.5, and a control rating of 9.2. So really the only difference here is that the J2NF has a touch more power, and the J2FC Plus has a touch less power, but a touch more control. And again, this is why I was saying that I was very surprised by these, by the feel of these different paddles, right? Because I was thinking that the NF, not utilizing Gen 3 construction, was going to be a little less powerful, right? Because we've seen that with polypropylene core paddles. Gen 2 paddles were less powerful than Gen 3 paddles. And so with this being a full foam core without Gen 3 characteristics, or two bands of foam around the perimeter, creating that peninsula kind of amplification of rebound effect, I was thinking that the FC Plus, utilizing those two bands of foam around the perimeter and that, potential peninsula amplification of rebound effect, might give this more power in comparison to the NF, but that wasn't the case in play, right? So I did miles per hour testing on this, and also did a lot of testing, with my ball machine, my Titan ball machine, and in play. And I found that the FC Plus actually just had a little less power and a little bit more control. Why that is, it just really comes down to the general construction. And I do believe from these results that, just full foam does not respond the same way polypropylene does as far as adding bands around the perimeter of the core. So something to keep in mind. One other aspect about these paddles is that, this is a CFC layup as well. So it's carbon fiber, fiberglass, carbon fiber as far as the sheets for the surface material on top of the core. So that also is why there isn't as big of a difference in power and pop between the carbon fiber version and the Kevlar version this time around. So the Kevlar version, the only difference here is that the pop is going to be a little bit higher and the control is going to be a little bit lower. So as far as the J2NFK goes, it's all the same metrics, except for the pop is a 9.1 and the control is an 8.9. So that's really the only difference here. So again, you get a little bit more of that rigidity off the face, a little bit more just pop and attack power at the kitchen line in comparison to the carbon fiber, fiberglass carbon fiber layups of the NF and the FC Plus. But I think that my personal favorite out of these right now would be the J2NF. I think that this has the power that I want. It has the control that I want. It has the pop that I want that allows me to control my dinks, resets, and drops very, very well. I think that if there was a paddle right now that I had to choose as the number one paddle in the space, it would be this. Very close second would be the J2K Plus. And then, of course, the J2NFK is right there, and the J2FC Plus is right there as well. But you have to ask yourself, what sort of small nuances will benefit your game the most, right? If you want the most power, I would go with the J2NF or the J2K Plus. If you want very relative power, just a little bit less power, but you're looking for a little bit more control, I would go with the J2FC Plus. And then if you're looking for something that gives you a little bit more pop and a little bit more aggression at the kitchen line, but you want still relative power and you don't mind giving up a little bit of control for that extra aggression at the kitchen line for, counters at the kitchen line and for speed ups, then I would go with the J2NFK. And then we can do just a quick comparison between these and, some of the other full foam variants in the space. So, these are going to be more powerful than the Carbon TruFoam Genesis series, way more powerful than the 008s from Selkirk. They have way more stock spin than the 008s from Selkirk. Relative spin to the TruFoam Genesis series, but again, the benefits here are that you get a hybrid paddle. TruFoam Genesis hasn't released their hybrid yet. They will be releasing a TruFoam Genesis 4 in the future. And then you also get the optimized swing weight aspects of this, whereas the TruFoam Genesis series, if you wanted an elongated paddle like the 1 or the 3, you do have the downside of a very high stock swing weight with those, whereas with these, they're very optimized as far as swing weight goes, right? The feeling off the face is going to be pretty relative to the TruFoam Genesis series, to be quite honest. You do get that nice dwell, kind of plush feeling off the face. There's no real break-in on these at all. Like you pretty much what you see is what you get. And then, comparing these to the 008s, again, the 008s are very, very control oriented, right? So those are going to be for somebody that's looking for maybe a unique shape. There are a lot of different shape options for the 008s, but they are very plush, very soft off the face. They don't have too much power to them. I would put them in the all-core category leaning control, if not at the top end of the control category for some of those variants, especially the 16mm versions. And then again, so is there a huge difference between the J2NF and the J2K Plus? The J2K Plus you do have to break it in a bit, right? So when you get that paddle, it's going to feel a little bit rigid, a little funky at first. It does take about 10 to 12 hours of play to kind of break that one in, and then it starts to become plush and nice, kind of opens up a little bit. I haven't seen too many durability issues with the J2K Plus, but you do get a much safer bet here with the J2NF specifically, right? So, it is a full foam core. You don't have to deal with the Gen 3 aspects of the potential of breaking down, and you do get a lot more durability here. I put this through a lot of testing, and I haven't noticed any sort of delamination. I haven't noticed any glue breaking apart on the inside. There's no rattling, nothing at all. And it hasn't heated up at all. So it stayed very consistent. And right when I pulled it out of the box and went to play with it, it felt very plush. It was one of those paddles where right when I hit my first ball with it, I kind of knew, I was like, oh man, this is a wonderful feeling paddle. So that's the breakdown and the review of the new full foam paddles from Honolulu. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I always try and read all the comments and try and get back to all of you because I really appreciate every single one of you. Make sure to subscribe if you always want to be in the know and be up to date on all the new paddles in the space. And, have a freaking wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.